Hi everybody, welcome to the 15th episode of MCUEx. It's a hot, stuffy day in New York City, there's a very loud baby in the apartment next to us, and we're going to be talking about all sorts of MCU news. Stay tuned for episode 15 of MCUEx.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the 15th episode of MCUEx, your number one source for MCU news, reviews, and discussion. I'm Addie Brie Hayes, and joining me today is Doug Herring.
Hi everybody. Hi Addie.
Hi.
It feels weird without Jeremy here.
Yeah, it kind of does. I almost said Jeremy Stewart before you, because I think I usually do, but then I didn't.
We miss you, Jeremy.
I miss you, buddy.
He's probably not watching.
I know. He's like in Jamaica or whatever.
Is he really?
Yeah.
That dick. Okay.
Anyway.
Before we just spend the entire episode bad-mouthing Jeremy, what's our first news story?
Don't you have a little bit of news for everybody?
Do I?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, so as you can see, we're a little bit scattered today. Usually we film MCUEx on Thursdays, so we can post it for you on Fridays. And normally that works out pretty well, because Marvel doesn't usually post news on Fridays. But as we saw last week with the Thor announcements, they like to throw us for a loop sometimes. So in order to deal with our schedules changing, as well as the news cycle, we are going to be moving MCUEx to Saturdays. So we'll shoot it Friday afternoon when all the news for the week has dropped, post it Saturday morning or early Saturday afternoon. That way, you know that we are getting you the most current news. That way we're not posting videos that are already out of date because new information has come up that totally makes our main discussion irrelevant, which has almost happened before.
Yeah.
So that's always fun when that happens, when we finish shooting, we're like, cool, that was a great episode.
And then I go online, and then I'm like, guys.
Yes, yeah, we've had to reshoot discussions before because actors have dropped out of movies, or new information has come to light, or rumors were debunked. So just to avoid that, and to also just help Addie and I out with our schedules, MCUEx will, from now on, be on Saturday mornings or early afternoons. We haven't figured that part out yet.
But
Saturdays, yes. So if you like watching MCUEx, keep watching MCUEx. Just watch us on Saturdays instead of Fridays now. And other than that, it's going to be basically the same. It's going to be the two of us for now. People are asking, are we going to find another person to replace Jeremy? First off, how dare you? We could never replace Jeremy.
Yeah.
But no, we agree. 3 people for a discussion is a little bit more of a natural number to have varied opinions than 2. So in the future, yeah, we're going to try and find a new third person, but for at least the time being, it's just going to be Addie and I.
We're good enough, right?
Yes, we're good enough. All right, so I don't think I missed anything.
Yeah,
now let's do the first news story?
Yes.
All right.
So our first news story is that the cast of Thor Ragnarok was revealed. Can you tell us a little bit more about this, Doug?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
So, we've known a lot of casting and production type stuff about Thor Ragnarok for a while now, but Marvel has not actually officially confirmed any of it. So from Mark Ruffalo appearing to Taika Waititi directing, we've known it, to Cate Blanchett starring, we've known these things. The actors or directors themselves have said these things. So they were a done deal, but Marvel didn't confirm them.
Just for some reason?
So in their official press release to announce the start of production for Thor Ragnarok, they confirmed a bunch of stuff for that movie.
A lot of stuff we already knew, but also some brand new stuff.
Yeah, a lot of stuff we already knew. So what they did, they confirmed Taika Waititi directing, they confirmed Hulk appearing in it, they confirmed Cate Blanchett appearing.
And her role.
And her role as Hela. They confirmed Tessa Thompson appearing and her role as Valkyrie.
Which we all kind of knew.
Well, we all speculated, but that's still really interesting that they're doing that, because I love that character.
I'm so excited for her to act it.
Same.
Play it.
And then the 2 new ones that we didn't know about, we had no idea these were coming, are Jeff Goldblum as the Grandmaster. I'm
so excited.
Love Jeff Goldblum. And Carl Urban as Scourge, the Executioner.
I love him, so...
Yes, so if you don't know who Carl Urban is, you should. He's great. He plays Bones in the new Star Trek movies.
You'd recognize him if you saw him.
For sure, yeah. He played Judge Dredd. He's done a whole bunch of stuff, and I don't think I've ever seen him in a role where I didn't like him.
Yeah, exactly. He's like just a very likable guy.
Yeah.
And really about the whole cast, it's a very diverse cast. Like I would have never guessed like Jeff Goldblum would be in it.
Right.
Or he would be in it, or Tessa Thompson would be in it. It might be my favorite cast ever of MCU so far. So far.
The Black Panther cast is turning out to be pretty spectacular.
Oh, right, duh.
But
I don't know, I just love Kate so
I will
much.
say that these announcements definitely bumped Ragnarok up a few places in terms of which Phase 3 movie I anticipate most.
Phase 3 casting is really kicking it up.
Yeah.
You know, the actors that they're getting are really awesome now. So
You make a good point that these don't seem like actors that would be in a Thor movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'd never guess Tessa Thompson or Jeff Goldblum would be in a Thor movie.
yeah, Jeff Goldblum. I mean, kind of. Thor is kind of like the weird, funny one. Jeff Goldblum's kind of the weird, funny one.
So, speaking of weird, his character, the Grandmaster, in the comics, he is the same race as the Collector, and so they consider each other brothers. But he's this very, very weird guy that sort of seeks to fulfill his existence through seeking out amusement, through mastering games and creating games. And those games often take the form of gladiator matches, where he chooses a team of champions and his opponent chooses a team of champions, and they fight. So people have been speculating that Jeff Goldblum's character might be an indication that the MCU might be adapting certain elements of the Planet Hulk storyline,
Right.
where Hulk is basically forced to fight in a gladiator-style tournament. So that'd be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, all in all, great news.
And then I know Mark Ruffalo's made some sort of comment that it is kind of a space buddy movie or buddy space movie, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's
what
stuff
I
that we've
kinda
heard
wanted.
plenty of times before, and the more we hear it, the more excited I get.
Yeah. Great. So our next news story is that Carrie-Anne Moss will return as Jeri Hogarth in Iron Fist. This is kind of something that we heard rumors about after Iron Fist was started casting a little bit, and it makes sense because she is actually a character from the Iron Fist comics.
Yeah.
Or he
Right.
in the comics.
Hogarth originally is a character from Iron Fist.
Yeah.
So from the second she was cast for Jessica Jones, people assumed that she would be showing up in Iron Fist.
Yeah.
But it's cool to get this confirmation.
And then also the other idea from it, though, is that since now Foggy, at the end of season 2 for Daredevil, is joining Hogarth at her firm,
Or seems to be.
or like we can assume from his meeting with her,
Right.
that maybe he'll make an appearance.
Yeah.
Or at least be mentioned. Maybe
Sure.
there's some sort of lawsuit that Carrie-Anne Moss is helping with, Danny Rand, and he shows up for the court or something, or
Yeah.
is there for a meeting, or just even mentioned. He'll be at least mentioned.
Oh, I think so. I mean, we got a Jessica Jones name drop in Daredevil season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would actually surprise me if we don't at least hear Foggy mentioned, because keep in mind, Iron Fist is the last series before the Defenders.
Right.
So I
He
think
should be in it.
I think we're going to start to see these connections form so that when the Defenders comes out, they don't have to spend 2 or 3 episodes plausibly getting all these people together.
Plus, it's even better because Carrie-Anne Moss is from Jessica Jones, and then Foggy's from Daredevil, so it's 2 connections, not even just to the same character, but 2 different shows.
Exactly. It's really fleshing out those connections so that when they all meet each other, it's like, well, yeah, of course, because they have like 5 mutual friends.
Yeah.
They're suggested connections with each other on LinkedIn.
Yeah. MCU LinkedIn.
All right, what's next?
All right, our next news story is that Marvel wants to film parts of Black Panther in Africa. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense. It's a no-brainer that they'd film at least parts of it in Africa.
I wonder where, because Wakanda's in the northeastern continent of Africa.
Yeah,
but
Wakanda's
that's
around like Kenya, Ethiopia, that sort of area in Africa.
And I'd want it to be filmed in it, like, presumably where it would be.
Right.
But I don't know how that could work with those countries.
Sure, so Northern Africa, places like Egypt, they're not the most friendly, politically stable places on Earth right now. But no, I don't think it'll be too big of an issue. I think it'll be interesting to see, where exactly they film.
That's what's more interesting to me, because in Africa,
Sure. But no, it's great. It's, like I said, it's a no-brainer. Of course they'd want to film some of it in Africa. So, it's cool.
Cool. And our last news story is Disney's deal to put Marvel, Pixar, and Lucasfilm's movies all on Netflix. Can you tell us a little bit more about this plan?
Yeah, so we've known about this deal for a while now, but we're finally going to see it come into effect in September. So basically this is this wide sweeping deal that Disney made with Netflix, where all Disney theatrically released movies would appear on Netflix as opposed to other TV channels or streaming services like Starz or HBO or what have you. So for Marvel fans, what this means is that starting with 2016 releases, so Civil War is included in this, you can expect to see all MCU movies show up on Netflix after their DVD release. So this is awesome because as Phase 3 keeps getting more and more interconnected, it's kind of difficult for fans to go in blind to movies.
Yeah, it'll be really helpful for that.
Right, so it'll be really helpful if Spider-Man Homecoming is coming out or Black Panther's coming out and you want an introduction to these characters, you go on Netflix, you watch Civil War. Even if you missed it in theaters, which... Let's face it, nobody missed it in theaters, but still.
Yeah, it's been a while.
If you want to refresh your memory, you can just go on Netflix. You don't have to rush out and buy the DVD. Yeah. And so before Infinity War, you can binge all of Phase 3 in one easy place.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds amazing. I wonder if or when, if they'll ever get Phase 1 movies on Netflix. I know it's a little bit harder because it's not like Disney didn't have most of them.
Right.
So, but I hope they are trying to work that out. I bet they are.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I think Disney and Marvel would love to, and Netflix for that matter.
Yeah, Netflix would
love to put all of the MCU movies in one place. I think that's a win-win for Netflix, for Marvel, for Disney, for everybody. But like you said, because Disney did not have the distribution rights for any of Phase 1, except the Avengers, I think they did.
Yeah, I think that's the only one.
Yeah, that would be really difficult, but... If the deal was popular enough on Netflix, I mean, if Disney movies, specifically Marvel movies, bring X number of subscribers to Netflix, I can see Netflix shelling out a lot of money to get the rights to play those earlier Marvel movies.
Yeah.
And Star Wars as well. I know this is an MCU show.
Oh yeah, the Star Wars and Indiana Jones is included with Lucasfilm.
Right. So yeah, we'll see Rogue One on Netflix when it comes out, which is cool. Will they shell out the money to Fox to get the prequels and, more importantly, the original trilogy on Netflix remains to be seen. Or when the new Indiana Jones 5 movie comes out in 2019, that'll be on Netflix. Will they shell out the money to get the first 4?
Huh.
And I think the answer really comes down to what their numbers say. If people are watching it and demanding it, and it's worth the money, that ridiculous amount of money to get all those new movies, then I think they'll do it if it makes sense from a business perspective.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. So, moving on.
Yes.
Last week, we had our 2-part season finale of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I really, really liked it. It was a great end to the season. The season was solid. There were some pretty bad episodes. Not bad episodes. I wouldn't say bad. There were just some episodes that I was like meh about, that it looked like they were running out of things to talk about and story plot points. And then there's some episodes that I really, really loved.
Yeah.
Like the Bobby and Hunter's last episode was fantastic. And sadly, Most Wanted is not happening.
Right.
As of right now. But this past episode, I got Lincoln, spoilers. I got Lincoln spoiled for me before I could watch it, which was pretty upsetting. But I was really surprised that they killed him. And the way they killed him, I almost started crying.
Yeah.
And Lincoln's the character that I care the least about. So it's really good job on their part for making me almost cry at his death.
For sure. I was definitely expecting May would be the one to die.
Yeah, me too.
And I was kind of happy to be wrong about that because May is a character who I don't think the show really has known what to do with for a while. So the fact that they are keeping her on and they're going to try and do something new with her. Interestingly, she was the one character we didn't see at the very end of the season in like the coda scene, where it cuts forward to 6 months later.
Yeah.
We didn't see what May was up to. We saw Coulson and Mac, we saw Daisy.
We hear what Simmons and Fitz are doing.
Right.
Kind of. I mean, they're around still, but we never hear anything about May.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it'll be very interesting to see where they go with her character. But yeah, overall, I agree with you totally. I think the finale, both episodes were really, really good. And there were a lot of episodes in season 3 that I loved. But I would say that as a whole, season 3 was maybe 5 or 6 episodes too long.
Yeah,
because
I totally agree.
It seemed like they had a really solid idea of what they wanted to do. And it was about a 10 or 12 episode season. And then they needed to pad it out to fill 23 episodes or 22 or however many. And it just, it didn't work when it was stretched out over so long. Because like you said, it felt like they were just filler episodes or episodes where nothing really was happening.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm, like, happy and sad about is that Brett Dalton is now not on the show anymore. He is...
Why are you happy about that? I love Brett Dalton.
Well, no, because it's like, they keep using him, and, like, he keeps changing.
Oh,
but, like,
just
it's
kind of
like,
forces them to do something new.
Yeah.
I
like,
see.
just getting out with the old and in with the newest. Speaking about that, we have Radcliffe.
Yes.
Who's looking to be the big villain for the next one.
Well, he doesn't even seem to be a villain right now.
But just, like, I think he will start turning tides. And...
Well, when you look at the stuff that he was looking into with LMDs and Ada, those are things that probably won't end well.
Yeah,
exactly. If you know specifically, like, Ada from the comics.
And he's a little creepy, and he, like, he has very weird motives that S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't really gel with very well.
Yeah, I think he's kind of a morally gray person. So, yeah, it'll be... I could totally see him staying as a ally for S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't want to say a part of S.H.I.E.L.D., but...
Like a consultant.
Right, exactly. Or I could see him turning into a villain very easily. So it'll be very interesting to see.
And it kind of looks like they're trying to go away from Inhumans.
Which I think is a smart move.
Which is really, really what I want, especially since Inhumans was taking off the movie schedule, and we don't really know what's happening with that.
Yeah.
They're just not really connected to the Marvel Universe, and having Inhumans is such a big thing that it's never mentioned, so...
Right. I mean, I think we'll obviously still see some Inhumans, Daisy for one.
But it won't be the main focus, I think.
Exactly. Which, yeah, I'm totally with you. That's a smart move for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because I think focusing on the Inhumans is what got them in trouble in Season 3.
Yeah.
They had these great ideas, but they didn't know how to make it carry a season. So, I liked Season 3, I didn't love it, but I love these characters so much that I am really excited for what they do with Season 4.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Alright, so should we move on to our main discussion?
Yes. Our main discussion comes from two news stories, the Spider-Man Homecoming villain rumors, and the announcement that Michael Keaton is back in talks to play the villain.
Yeah, so this is one of, at the beginning of the show, I mentioned that one of the reasons we're moving to Saturdays is because occasionally news will drop while we're filming or right after we're filming.
I messed it up.
So a few weeks ago, or like a month ago, our main discussion was about this rumor that Michael Keaton was joining the cast of Spider-Man Homecoming. Immediately after we finished talking about it...
No, it was in the middle we were talking about it.
That's right,
and we got the, like, nope, he's out, and I, like, literally just in the middle was like, guys, this is trash because it's just not happening. We completely
had to abandon our main discussion because Michael Keaton had dropped out of talks for Spider-Man Homecoming. Well, now he's back in.
Woo!
So, yeah, I was... Again, I'll go back to the main discussion that we never finished talking about.
Right.
I love Michael Keaton. He's been in back-to-back...
Oscar-winning...
Best Picture-winning movies.
Yeah.
He's kind of experiencing a resurgence in him, or in his career as this really high-caliber actor. So him playing the villain of Spider-Man Homecoming make tons of sense.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that in the period between him dropping out and coming back, the rumor is that they met with a star, one of the stars from True Detective.
Which I'm guessing is probably from season 1 and not season 2.
That would make sense, yeah.
Just from type-wise and look-wise, if thinking they're going for the same kind of look, they'd probably be going for Matthew McConaughey or Woody Harrelson instead of Vince Vaughn from season 2.
Right, or Taylor Kitsch.
I mean, that's the farthest one away.
Yeah.
I'd be very confused and concerned.
So yeah, that Keaton is back in is great news. But then the other rumor that kind of goes hand in hand with this comes from Joe Blow that says that there are going to be two villains in the movie. Right. The main villain will be Vulture, which is something that we've heard from a bunch of people now.
Yeah.
So that would not surprise me at all. And that seems like a good role for Keaton.
Mm-hmm.
But that he would be assisted by the Tinkerer, who would kind of help him upgrade and design his suit. And the rumor, and I don't know if I quite buy this, but the rumor is saying that Vulture's suit will use Chitauri technology.
I mean, if it is true, that makes sense. It was in New York. It's years after it happened, so Vulture and Tinkerer got to be friends, and they were like, let's make this thing with this awesome equipment that I found after the invasion. I also like how the Tinkerer and Vulture will be more of like a duo.
Right.
They're just kind of like separate storylines that at some point converge at the big finale that just happens to happen.
Well, yeah, you get that in movies a lot of times where there are two villains whose maybe their plans happen to coincide or they happen to team up, but they're not really working together.
Mm-hmm. And it happens at the same time, like
Right.
coincidence.
Like, I mean, Iron Man 2 is a good example.
Yeah.
Where the villains are Justin Hammer and Benko, and then they happen to work together for a short period of time.
Right.
And that's fine, and it works okay. Or, like, even The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
You have Joker and Two-Face, and certainly their stories are interconnected, but they're not, like, a partnership. Mm. That's a good point.
They handled that one better, though.
Oh, yeah, no, that wasn't a criticism against The Dark Knight at all. But just, I'm agreeing with what you're saying, that we don't often see a pair of villains.
Right.
We see two different villains whose plans happen to coincide or happen to overlap for a time.
I also really enjoy that if it's Spider-Man and Iron Man. Iron Man's the one providing his suit and all the technology, and then we have Vulture and the Tinkerer, who Tinkerer is kind of like the Tony Stark, and Vulture is kind of the Spider-Man in the partnership.
Yeah, you get some parallels
and then two
there.
different technologies, too, if the rumor is true.
Right. And, you know, I said earlier that I don't think that I buy the Chitauri rumor. Then again, if I'm Sony, and I want to tell fans, this is not just another reboot of Spider-Man, this is in the Avengers universe, what do? I cast Iron Man in it.
Yeah.
And I reference the Avengers.
Yeah.
You know, these are two...
Exactly.
So, now that I think about it, it makes total sense for Sony to say, oh yeah, no, you know, they show a clip from the Battle of New York in the Avengers, and they're like, oh yeah, Peter was totally, like, watching from school or something. Like, they put him into that universe at the beginning of the movie, and then when the Chitauri technology comes up later, we've seen... Yeah, that makes some sense.
If it was, like, if it was, like, in Doctor Strange... Oh, wait, no, that's in New York, isn't it?
Doctor Strange, that's partially in New York.
Well, okay, a different movie that's not in New York. Like Black
Captain
Panther.
Marvel.
Captain Marvel. Talking about Chitauri technology that they got, even though it's not set in New York, I'd be like, no, it's probably a rumor.
It seems like a fan theory, right.
Yeah, but this one has a little bit more grounding with it, that it's in New York, and it's Peter Parker and the Tinker, like, the just the two duos, and, like, having, like, rivalry kind of with that, like, since they're both kind of, like, superhero, like, we got Spider, everything I explained already, but then had the Stark technology, and then Chitauri alien technology.
Yeah.
Good rivalry.
Now, on the subject of Stark technology, one of the other parts of that Joe Blow rumor is that Spider-Man's suit would be upgraded, which, yeah, of course it will be. Suits are upgraded every movie for merchandise reasons, and when you have Tony Stark show up, of course he's going to bring new toys. But the rumor specifically said that he would be getting his classic underarm webbing.
Which would be perfect.
Which would be fun.
I would love it.
I mean, in the early, like, 1960s comics, yeah, Spider-Man had, like, webbing under his arms, and it looked kind of silly, and nobody's ever tried to turn it, or, like, translate that onto live action, because it looks kind of silly.
But I think it would work so perfectly with Vulture, and, like, what we've seen of Peter Parker already, he's so awkward that if you had webbing, like... I feel like someone else, like, shows up, they'll make, like, some sort of remark about how silly it is.
Oh, I don't think they will, because Marvel has this amazing ability to take ridiculous-looking things
and make them really awesome.
And make them look badass. Yeah. So, but the rumor is that he'll basically use this underarm webbing as sort of like a glider suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. It sounds cool.
It makes total sense.
And I could see, like I said, I can see Marvel finding a way to make it look awesome.
And I guess not have someone else come in, but even if, like, let's say there's a scene like Peter and Tony are talking about, like, the new upgrade and stuff, and Peter brings up some sort of, like, webbing for underneath to, like, defeat Vulture or whatever, and Tony at first is like, that's silly, that's dumb, but then, you know, he goes back to it, and sort of, like, funny Tony remark. It's, like, one-liner thing, but then he does it, and realize how brilliant it is.
Yeah, even then, though, I don't think Marvel, I mean, even in Ant-Man, all the lines from the trailer, and they had, like, 2 or 3 different lines from the trailer about what a ridiculous name Ant-Man is, but then those were actually cut out of the movie. Marvel is not one to poke fun at itself. I mean, a little bit. They don't take themselves too seriously, but they never seem embarrassed of their comic book origins.
Yeah.
Like, one of my gripes with the X-Men movies, even the good ones, which I really, really love, there's this line in one of the X-Men movies it's X-Men 1 or 2, where Wolverine's like, what do you want me to wear? Yellow spandex?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, because he wore that in the comics and that's stupid. It's not stupid. It can look cool. Look at the costumes from First Class.
Yeah.
You can be true to the comics without being completely silly looking. And Marvel knows that. And so I think that the chances of them, like, drawing attention to how ridiculous the comics are relatively low. I think they'll just do it and embrace it and make it look awesome.
I wonder if it's going to be like a detachable thing, since I feel like it's specifically for Vulture.
Yeah, detachable or retractable, or I don't think it's going to be...
remove it.
Right, I don't think it'll be a permanent part of the suit.
I agree.
So, going back to Michael Keaton and the villain rumors. Vulture is generally an older character in the comics, like much older.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that they might age him down a little bit, change the character's backstory to make it fit what they want to do with the character.
Especially since they already aged down Aunt May.
Sure, right. But what do you think about him maybe not playing the Vulture? Maybe he's in the movie... Because what Marvel has been doing recently, especially, is casting big-name actors as small roles.
That'll come back later.
Set up for future, right. Like Martin Freeman in Civil War.
Right. I guess he would be Osborn if it was that kind of thing, which they have to have some sort of reference to during this movie. It doesn't have to, you don't have to like see both, you don't see the dad and the son, you see one of them, he says hi to Harry, or we just see Mr. Osborn, but...
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think they've done Green Goblin enough.
Yeah.
That they need to give that a rest. That doesn't mean they need to give Norman Osborn a rest. Because Norman Osborn is a really, really fascinating character in Marvel Comics. So, yeah, I could see him playing like a relatively small role as Norman Osborn, who we don't really see as a big threat, or maybe Spider-Man doesn't even know about. Maybe he's funding the Vulture.
Right.
Or maybe he's just, like you said, Harry's dad, and he's not sinister or anything yet. And then in future movies, he's set up to become this bigger villain.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about Harry and both Osborns, Mary Jane, maybe Gwen. Just see some sort of mention because they are such big parts.
Sure. Yeah. Don't get rid of the Spider-Man mythology, but because it's been done so many times, have it set up for future films and then do something different.
Yeah, especially if this movie's more like Spider-Man and Tony. We see a lot more Tony than we're expecting, type of thing. I
think Tony will have a similar sized role as Spider-Man did in Civil War. And that's just my guess.
That's relatively big, though. I mean, I remember when people were saying Spider-Man was going to be in the movie, that people were just going to be like, oh, it's just going to be after credits, or it's going to be like...
a cameo or something.
Yeah, just very, very small. But, I mean, he has like a lot of screen time, so I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
That's the minimum of what I'd want.
In Civil War, we have one about 10-minute long scene with Peter Parker, and then Spider-Man is in the airport fight scene.
Right.
I don't think we'll see Iron Man.
Yeah.
I think we'll see Tony Stark.
I
don't think he'll actually suit up. Or maybe, he'll fly in. Like, we might get a cameo of Iron Man, but I think the bulk of his scenes will be as Tony.
I agree.
Because I think he'll be taking a much less active role, much more of a mentor role to Peter. And I think he'll have one or two meaty scenes, and that's about it. I don't think it'll be a Spider-Man and Iron Man movie.
Yeah. There was one other comment that I saw today, I think, that Chris Evans said he wanted to be in the Spider-Man Homecoming, which I was like, please, but I don't know how he would be because he's like kind of hiding right now.
Yeah, I don't know that it would really make sense for the character right now to show up in Homecoming.
Yeah.
That being said, I will never say no to more Chris Evans.
He could be the chaperone at the homecoming dance.
He's like not there. Even as Steve Rogers?
Oh, no, like in the court, no one notices him. He's just like keeping watch of Peter. But yeah, sure, maybe not even as Steve Rogers. That's totally fine. Just the tiniest little cameo. But yeah, I just had to bring that up because I think that he said that today or yesterday.
Yeah. All right, well, on that note.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's about the end of that discussion.
Awesome. Well, that's the end of this week's episode, everybody. Be sure to follow us on MCUExchange.com and our YouTube, Twitter... Facebook page. There we go. I'm Addie Brie Hayes. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Addie Brie.
And I'm Doug Herring. like Addie said, make sure you're following us on all that social media stuff.
Yeah.
We're at the MCU Exchange on Twitter, at MCU Exchange on Facebook, or just MCUExchange.com for all your news and everything related to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And we will see you on Monday for MCU Q&A.
Awesome.